Now, this video we're going to look at a few things. Inserting images, inserting headers and footers, inserting footnotes, inserting comments, inserting page numbers, and page count. Basically, we're going through this menu right here. Not entirely, but pretty darn close. And honestly, after we're done with this video, figuring out the rest of it should be pretty easy. The first thing I want to look at is inserting an image. Now that's pretty straightforward, pretty standard, pretty certain you could all figure this out without my help, but you know that's my job. So let's do this. So if we click insert and then image, we get this lovely little dialog box here, and this gives us a whole bunch of options. We can just drag and drop an image, we can choose an image from our file system, we can take a picture from our webcam, we can go by URL, we can look at our albums online through Google Drive, pictures that are shared, recent pictures, or we can search the internet, all kinds of things. What I'm going to do, however, is I'm going to upload an image. I happen to have some on my desktop, so I'm just going to drag one and drop it here, and that'll upload it. And this is a lovely graph. So now once we have this image in our document, we are free to move it around. Now we have a couple of different options when we click on it. We can resize this image by clicking on it, getting this border here with these squares at various points along the perimeter. Now, you're probably all familiar with this sort of construct, where if you click on it and drag, you can resize the image. Of course, if you click on the corners, you can resize it according to its aspect ratio, so basically the sides stay the same length. But if you click on one of the sort of centrally located ones, then you can just resize that sort of axis. So clicking on the ones on the bottom, adjust the height. Clicking on the squares on the sides, adjust the width. And just like everything else, if you press Ctrl-Z or Command-Z if you're on a Mac, you can undo those changes up to the insertion of the image. One other thing that's really important is this, the inline versus wrap text. What does that mean? Well, looking at this, apparently nothing, but let's insert some text and see how that works. So I've already copied a whole bunch of text into the clipboard, so I'm just going to go ahead and paste that. You may remember me talking about lorem ipsum before. Well, that's what we're using again. Now we can illustrate the difference between inline and wrap text. Wrap text sort of does what it sounds like. The text wraps around the image. Now that allows us to sort of align the text based on the image. You can see it looks very different depending on which one we pick, and then we can sort of reposition the image wherever we want, and the text will kind of conform to that readjustment. So as we drag it along, you see the text kind of wraps around it. Very interesting. Then if we click inline, it treats the image just like another piece of text. So we can still sort of move it around, but not quite the same way. Now, when it's inline like this, we can actually use Control-X to cut and paste it and put it different places. Now, that can be pretty useful if you want to format something a very specific way. And of course, you can still resize it and change it depending on your desire for this particular image. And of course, you can use Control-C or Command-C if you're on a Mac to copy and paste the image so you can get multiple copies in a single document. So that's inserting images. Now I want to talk a little bit about headers and footers. Now you may remember if you click on File, go to Page Setup, you have these top and bottom margins. Now what are those? That's actually where the headers and footers are going to show up. Now just from the wording on it, header and footer, head and foot, you can assume that they appear here and down here, and you'd be correct. They show up at the head and the foot of the document. I like that better. So let's go ahead and insert the header first, just so we can see what that looks like. And this is a header. That's what it looks like. And it appears on every page. So whatever you type here will show up down here. That's really useful if you want to put, say, your name and have that show up on every page of your document. That can be really useful. And then if we go to File, Page Setup, we can actually change the size of the header by changing that margin. That's pretty useful. Now, one thing that's kind of interesting, the way Google Docs works, once you've inserted a header, it's there forever. The only way to get rid of it is just to remove whatever you've typed in it, and then it goes away. But that header is still present, so even though you've removed everything, you can still sort of click here and type things. So just something to be aware of. Now, unsurprisingly, a footer is almost exactly the same. You have to be in the main body of the document. You can't be in the header, but as long as our cursor is somewhere here in the main body, we can go Insert, Footer, and click that, and there we go. And these also appear on every page. So once we've typed that, if we scroll down, they show up there. And if we create a new page, why, there they are again. So again, to insert a footer, the cursor has to be somewhere in the main document. You click Insert and go to Footer. And if they already exist, it just puts the cursor there. And just like headers, the only way to really get rid of it is to remove whatever content is in the footer. And just like the header, if you click File, Page Setup, you can adjust the size of the footer by adjusting the bottom margin. Now, something that is actually distinct from a footer, but may seem very similar, are footnotes. So we're going to go ahead and put a footnote on this word right here. So we click Insert after highlighting it. So if we double click to highlight it, and then click Insert and go to Footnote, and you can see there's also a shortcut key here. We click Footnote and we get this. Then we can write, this is a footnote. Neat. And we can see that there's a little teeny one right there. I'm going to actually do this. I'm going to hit Control A to select all the fonts, and I'm going to dial this up to 14 so maybe we can actually see it. And so we see there's this little tiny one, and if we double click on it, it takes us down to this footnote. Well, suppose, okay, so we put that one there. What if we want one here where it says Komodo? Interesting. So we go Insert, Footnote, and now that one becomes 1. So this is a way of, if you're writing, say, a research paper, of annotating your work. Now, one thing to note, I think I already mentioned this, there's kind of a bug in Safari. It works in Chrome, Firefox, and everything else. If you have a footer and you have footnotes, the footnotes disappear. So again, if you're using Safari and you have a footer, and you try to insert footnotes, it won't work. And that's only in Safari is that a bug, and everything else that seems to work just fine. So that's footnotes. And they're sort of distinct from a footer in that they appear kind of above the footer, and they're just different things. They're not quite the same thing. Now, you don't have to highlight a word to place a footnote. The footnote will go wherever the cursor is. So if you put it in the middle of this word and go Insert Footnote, that will work just fine. It's a little weird, but it works. That's why I like to highlight a word, so I know kind of that it's going to be going at the end of it, but that's not necessary. That's just the way I like to do things. Right, now I want to talk about inserting page numbers. Now, page numbers and page count are different. If we insert a page number, we have the choice of a top of the page or the bottom of the page. So for now, I'm going to put them in the top of the page, and this is how they show up. They show up on the upper right-hand corner, but you can adjust that using the text alignment that we talked about 2 weeks ago, I think. So that allows you to change those. You can also change the font size, and the font style. I mean, you can do whatever you'd like to it, just like anything else. And these page numbers are reflected, of course, on every page. So they will show up everywhere. And you can, of course, have page numbers at the top and bottom simultaneously. So we can insert them at the bottom of the page, and those work just like the top. Once they're inserted, it automatically keeps track. Now, how do you get rid of them? That's easy. You just delete them, just like any other character, and then they're gone. Now, page count is kind of interesting. you can insert a page count anywhere, and it keeps kind of a running total of the number of pages. So if we insert another page, you see they all get updated. The interesting thing with page counts, though, you can put them anywhere and they'll automatically update. It's kind of odd. I don't know. I mean, I can think of a number of reasons why you would want to put in a page count. It's an interesting piece of functionality. So again, page count is pretty easy. Insert page count. And just like page number, we can change the font face, size, decoration, or just change the style directly here. And that, of course, will change as we add pages. Pretty handy stuff. I forgot to mention inserting comments, so I want to go over that really fast. It's easy to insert a comment. Really, you just need to select some text, go to Insert, and then Comment. And there you go. Type in your comment and click Comment, and then that's there. This is useful if you want to do something like, say you're writing and you have a section that you'd like to rewrite, then you can go Insert, Comment, and type Rewrite Comment. You can, of course, do single words, big selection, and if you just put your cursor somewhere, go Insert, Comment, then it will kind of pick the whole word. Now this is sort of not selecting quite properly because I'm zoomed in. Let me zoom out and show you what that'll look like. So say we put the cursor here, click Insert, Comment, and then that's how that would work. And then it highlights kind of the whole word that the cursor is on. So if you're in a space, let's see what that does. We'll go Insert, Comment. It highlights sort of the nearest word. So the point of it's sort of metadata. It allows you to put comments on your text. So if you want to redefine something, remove something, it's good for editing. It's good for when you're sort of going through, and it's especially good when you're working with other people, because if you want to say, I like this section, but maybe redo it, or this section's fantastic, copy it 8 times, something to that effect, you can put comments in, and when you share it with other people, their comments will sort of highlight in a different color. So it's really useful for doing collaborative work.